Okay, you ready, helper?
Yeah.
All right, we got Lamb Lamb too. You ready to help me, Lamb Lamb?
Yeah.
All right. All right, that was great having Em back in the shop with Lucy, and my wife came out too and helped. This one's gonna be kind of a long update. We got a lot of work done. It might not look like a lot to show for it, but a lot of hours in here. And then also, a special surprise showed up in the mail, so something to show you at the end of the video. Okay, we'll jump right into the update. We got a lot to cover, so bear with me. This is not scripted or anything. Most of the work was done in the fuselage, so we'll go ahead and start there. As you can see, the vertical fin is on, or the vertical stabilizer, along with the top stringer for the fuselage that sets the shape of the back. The way that we set this fin on was we set the rudder in place with this bottom fitting here, and then it matches that top fitting, so you move this vertically and then you drill through and set this bolt. And then you match the reveal on top here and move this one up and down and drill that bolt and set it. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple. The forms and the instructions, or maybe not the instructions, but at least the forms, and people say that you're gonna have to ream some of these. I didn't have to. The pins slid in with a really tight, perfect fit, so that worked out good there. After we got that on, then we jumped over to this jack screw assembly. This jack screw assembly, this thing right here, moves up and down. This motor in the bottom spins that screw and moves that up and down so that you can adjust the angle of the horizontal for trim in the airplane. How we put this in is it comes down through the top. You can't see it very well because the stringer's in place. The stringer goes in after we put all this together. But this jack screw drops through this hole here, down into, and then fits in this hole here, and then down. There's a coupler here to this motor. So the motor bolts to this plate. This is the trim indicator for the avionics to show what position this is in up in the cockpit. Obviously you can't see it from the cockpit, so we have a sensor to tell us where it's at. In the past, I guess this hole here was too tight to fit this jack screw to drop down in. Mine fit fine, I didn't have to ream it out. And then you slide this thrust bushing down in here, and you drill this out and put another bushing in and a bolt. You can't see it's behind there as well. And that sets it so that it can spin, but also is rigid up and down. You don't need to play any up and down. This yoke goes through it with the grease, and this is what the tail actually slides into, these holes here. We got this bracket that wraps around, and this bracket wraps around and goes up to this pulley, to this spring, which is attached to the elevator. It all works together. On this thing, we also have these limit switches. And we set these right here, these switches, you can hear this click. So as this travels up, it'll hit this bolt that we set, or the machine screw that we set, and it comes up here, and that limit switch contacts that, shuts the trim off so you don't keep overheating the motor pushing up when it can't go up any further. This one here I had to tap. It would not, I actually almost lost this bolt. It took a lot of work to get this out without ruining it. So probably some extra powder coating or something in there. And this bolt is longer than the lower bolt. So we have the top limit switch and the bottom limit switch. So when it comes down, it contacts that. Pretty straightforward. You will have to drill through. I had to drill through this coupler here into the shaft for the motor and into the shaft for the jack screw, and then put pins in and then safety wire. Also got the wire routing the way I wanted it. Used a little bit of fuel sleeving on here to keep some abrasion down. And you can see the connector here for the sensor. And these are the orange wires are for the limit switch and the up and down controls. And if you have the G3X, then you'll have this sensor as well. Okay, I got my lovely assistant here. We got the Jeep hooked up. We need 12 volts hooked up to the wiring to test the trim motor in the rear. So my wife Jen is gonna hook the 2 wires we have. So I'll just hold this straight. Go ahead, Jen. You can do either way. So right now she's got them, so it's going up. And then you'll see we have a limit switch on the back here. And we'll go all the way up till that limit switch hits the screw. And it'll stop. See, it automatically stopped it right there with that limit switch. And we've got maybe just a touch, about a 1/16 of an inch there is what they call in the book. And then we'll go down. So she'll just switch them. So it'll be positive to positive and negative to negative. It's kind of hard to get a good connection with those little tiny wires up there. And just hold this straight so that this can't spin loosely, and I'll hit the limit switch right on the screw limits there. And you can see the string, this tiny string with this little deal here, that's the gauge for the G3X to show you where your trim's at. Now this one should come down and hit that screw right on the limit switch there. Yeah, and we're stopped. And maybe a little bit more than a 1/16 there, but that's okay. So that's how we tested it. We've got this negative jumper here to a ground, which I took the powder coating off here for this ground wire. But for the testing purposes, that needs to be grounded to the source, electrical source. So I've got this jumper wire going down to some spare wire that I have all the way back to the Jeep, into a jumper wire to the negative side of the battery. Then we just rednecked it with some jumper cables so that we could get some power there. I didn't have a spare battery lying around, so that's what we did. Thanks a lot, hon.
Welcome.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, so that's that. That took a lot of time. Probably more than, obviously if I did it again, it'd go a lot quicker, but I have a lot of time into this tail section here. So once that's on, then you could set the stringer, and that's epoxy glued in place with the methylcrylate glue, nice and straight, and worked out really good there. No issues there. Just had to trim it and get it nice and flush on these spots here. And then I'll fill it with some body filler too, along with these spots. We get some body filler in there so we have a nice transition when we put the fabric on. So yeah, the wires for this run through this stringer all the way up. In this stringer, there's silicone every 12 inches or so to hold it in place. Maybe some zip ties here and there where you can't get some silicone. And it comes out the end of this grommet here. This one I have going down into the floor. I haven't actually checked the wiring schematic yet, but that's where I've seen it needs to go, and it'll end up inside down here, because we'll have trim. The trim switches are actually in the sticks. So I have the option for the front stick and the rear stick, so you can fly it from either one. And then these other wires here, the ones that went all the way back to the tail there, are for lighting. And one's for lighting, one's for trim indication. This one's for trim indication to the G3X. Okay, so that's the wiring and the trim. And now we'll go ahead and move on to the next project we did, which was the ELT. So I had to put the ELT in this way. The directions show it going vertically, but the way that it was worked for me spacing wise, because I wanted the antenna to fit right here and still be level. And they want you to use some tape here to support it. I'm guessing because it's sideways instead of vertical. Don't know, but I guess it helps it. Anyway, we got the friction tape and the rib lacing tape in here to hold that in place. My wire coax, I'm not even sure what you call it. I'm not an avionics guy. But the coax for the ELT just runs down here through this stringer. Again, got some silicone in here to hold it in place every so often. And then we have some grommets in place. I ran it through this grommet here and this grommet here, and then down through the belly and up through the battery box, out through here, and it's going to go to the ELT. And as you can see, the ELT's in. I also went ahead and took the step based off advice from online forums. A guy named Dave Embrave, never met him, but what a wealth of knowledge. He's built like 5 of these things. And so the ones he's describing are EX3s, and there's actually quite a bit of subtle differences that can be kind of confusing for an EX2 builder. But man, what a wealth of knowledge. Really appreciate his information there. So put this box together, countersunk these screws so everything's nice and flush, trimmed a little bit, got the ELT mounted in there. That took a little bit of time and a trip to the hardware store or two to get the hardware that I wanted. It came with all this stuff, but I ended up getting some extra grommets and some other things. And it's not hooked up yet because I'm not an avionics guy. I don't know how to put this fitting on. I don't have the tools or the knowledge, so I'll phone a friend, my buddy Terry, hopefully can help me with that, and that'll just go right here. I chose this Canada ELT because the controls are right here. I don't need to run separate wiring up to the panel or out of the back of the airplane. Everything's right here. Most ELTs, you have wiring in the panel for, on, off, armed. And this was just a nice, simple solution. It fits here. I think that's what they kind of designed this box for, was for this ELT. Battery will go right here. We'll have some holes. I need to drill here with some grommets for the battery wires to go down to the solenoids and up to the engine. So that's that. We got that in. All right, onto the cables now. We got the front stick and rear stick, and you can see the bottom here. We have, these are you pull the stick back, forward and back, you're gonna control the elevators. So the elevator's connected there. We put this pulley in. Nothing real special there. Just kind of a pain sometimes to get the washers in between the housing and the pulley and all the grease and everything, but no issues there. Got that pulley in along with the protecting here to keep the cable from jumping out. And it goes down through here, through this fair lead we already installed. I think the X3s actually have pulleys in here, but we have fair leads in the 2. It goes through the rear stick fair lead, and then it goes to this is important, it goes to the right side of the fuselage. You got a double pulley here. It goes to the right side of the fuselage and follows the right side all the way down in these blocks we put in that earlier step with the bottom stringer. Through this right side pulley, and this is actually the lower cable. So it goes below this cross member here, and I have it labeled at the end here for up and down, because once this is covered, it's going to be hard to see. So I have that labeled up and down, so when I go hook these together, I've already got the turnbuckles on and everything. So that's the front and the right. You can imagine that cable's, it doesn't say in the book which is what, but I laid them out and it was obvious because that one's longer. It's got to go, it's in the front, it's got to go forward and then back. Okay, so then we got the back stick. And the back stick, that cable wouldn't fit through the floor. So this hole is slightly larger, so I could get, actually towards the end there it's smaller. This is a little bit bigger. So I put the tail end of this cable through this hole. It looks nice. And then this right here is a cover plate for this pulley. And same thing, got to make sure that one's on the left. And you got this double pulley here. And there's a lot of washers and things in here too, special washers. So that was kind of a pain in the neck. I mean, it worked fine, and actually I had to drill this hole, match drill this hole to the right size. It was a little bit undersized. And that one goes on the left all the way back, same as the right, and labeled as well. All right. You can see I got them all zip tied in place, just kind of held so that they're out of the way. So we're getting pretty close to covering. And then the next ones we ran were the rudders. And the rudders are attached, the rudder cables here are attached to the rear pedals. And you'd think, well, that's not the pilot's in the front. Well, these are interconnected with these metal push rods. So we have a right cable and a left cable. Nothing real special there, nothing to think about. I mean, it's just pretty simple. Runs through these fair leads, and then we got these two-piece fair leads in here with these metal C brackets or C clips, and some silicone on there to keep them from rattling. And then this is where Emily helped me. She helped me put the ones in the back here. Sorry, see if we can get that to focus. Those are kind of a pain in the neck to do by yourself. I don't know. I don't think I could do it by myself. So she could push it against for me, and then I could get the C-clip from the other side. So that was a big help. Thanks, Em. Works pretty good. I'll go ahead and put these, I put the cables through these fairleads, but I haven't riveted them in yet because I want to put these interior panels in. I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but these interior panels right here cover all this up, and the cable rides inside these panels, and I don't want the cable rubbing against the interior panels, so I'm going to set these interior panels in place and then move these fairleads up or down so they're not going to rub once I get them in. And that'll probably be the next step. And I'll save that for another video. But yep, just goes through these fairleads down to the back, and that'll tie to the rudder. So that's it, I think, for the fuselage. I mean, I put a couple other little hardware, some these are the adjustable stops for the elevator, so it can't go too far. Oh yeah, okay, here's one thing I forgot to mention. These are the stops for the rudder. So the rudder can only go so far before it hits metal right here. They're much shorter than what they need to be. I think mine was at 4 inches of deflection, and it's about 7 inches of deflection. So the way you measure that is you install your rudder, and then you turn it one way till it stops, and then you put a tape measure on there to see how far it goes. And it's really a little bit here, goes a long way up there. So luckily people had told me about that, or I might have got a little overzealous on that. So sanding a little bit there with my die grinder got me the right deflection there. Okay, so I think that's it for the fuselage. It doesn't look like a lot's done if you didn't know what you're looking at, but there's a lot of hours. We got the fabric spacers in. These metal pieces here are glued on. I would say if you're going to do these stringers, go ahead and trim the back side of this stringer out before you even put it on, because it's kind of a pain in the neck to do with these tubes in the way, and it's going to need to get done. You'll methylcrylate it in place, but you got to do it so that this has a nice, really nice smooth curve, and you can see mine's perfect. But that kind of a pain in the neck to get in between the tubes and this to scarf it out. So if you're doing this, again, I'm not a pro, I'm a rookie, but if I do it again, I'm going to trim that out before I put all these on, make it a lot easier for myself. So that fabric spacer's in, and this one over here is in. This one was quite a bit easier, wasn't much to do that. It's just flush with this piece here, this fabric spacer. Actually, this fuselage is pretty much ready to cover. I'm going to go ahead and set the interior panels in now because it's supposed to be done later, but if I do them now, I can drill and do all this stuff without worrying about the fabric, and I can see them from both sides. And I'm going to end up putting a bunch of pockets in here that don't come, some interior hardware pockets, so I can, mat pockets, sunglasses, things like that. I want to do that now so that it's going to be much easier to see and work around that. So anyway, my next thing will be that. But yeah, the only thing, if I wasn't going to do that, the only thing left to do on this before I cover it that I'm aware of, your experts can chime in if I'm wrong, is we got to put the lightweight body filler in all these transitions and sand it smooth. All those places we talked about, and around these fabric spacers where need be, and then we're ready to cover. So I'm really close on that. And that brings me to the wings. The wings probably don't look a lot different than the last video you saw. Then you got this blue tape on the front. I'm just getting ready for the leading edge skins. That's the next step. I'm going to have a friend help me with that, a pro, because this is really thin sheet metal work, and I don't need to have a mess up like I had last time and try to start all over. So no shame there, no ego there. Call an expert when I need it. But what I did get in the wings is all the wiring and the pitot and AOA tubes. This green and blue Seahawk colored pitot and AOA is ran, and that's just inside, siliconed in the fuel bay here, and then it's got the grommets that go through these ribs and out to this this bracket for the pitot tube. Also got the landing and navigation light wiring and the stall warning wiring in this front spar in this channel here. Again, siliconed in where it needed to be. We got in the bay 5, just short of rib 6, is the light. That'll be a landing and pulsating light. Have one in each wing, so it'll wig-wag pulse. so traffic can see me easier. I think it's a massive safety feature. Whenever I'm flying in really bad weather, which is not uncommon in the Pacific Northwest, it's night and day easier to see wig-wag pulsating lights on an airplane when you're coming the opposite direction. So I opted for that feature. Got the nav lights running all the way out here to the end. This will be for the strobe, flashing lights on the end of the wings, and nav lights. Got the ground in here. This hole's already pre-drilled, which is the screw in there. Nothing special there. Got this in bay 9. This right here is the stall warning in the ground in. Just have it taped in place, so after we cover, we can pull that out and get it working. It's in just short of bay 9. Nothing real special there. Of course, this one has an AOA that I can tune to my stall speed, and then also a stall warning. So we'll just have to see how that works out with both those systems. I think it's going to be fantastic having that AOA in there. This wing here, same on the front. We got the nav and the pulsating light taped in place here so we can get to it later. And I have to put the buckets in both these, the actual housing that holds the lights in behind. I'll throw that in, obviously, before we get the skins on. And then same thing here, the nav lights. Now, what's special about this right wing and the avionics I have is it has this here. This is basically a remote electronic compass. It's called a magnetometer. Super sensitive equipment. In fact, it's so sensitive that there's no ferrous metal around it, so it's brass screws and things that can't be magnetic. And it's got this 9-pin connector to go down the wing to it. This you'll rivet together and then install with those brass fittings. I think I'm just going to leave it in. I think some people take it out and then put it in again later, but I'll leave it in for now. If I got to take it out and redo it, adjust it, that's fine, but it's already in there, so why pull it out? I got that going back there. Again, silicone every so often to keep it from losing. And then you'll put this connector on. Super easy. Just click, slides right into the little holes here. Nothing super complicated about that. Again, thanks to Dave Embry and some of the others on the Cub Crafters forums and the Facebooks and YouTubes, because it's been big help on a lot of that stuff. So yeah, wings are ready for leading edge skins. Hope to get that done real soon. I'll get the interior panels going on that. And then we'll start covering this thing. So we're getting really, really close. I'm really happy with how far things have come along. Now, what's really special, a surprise showed up in the mail. I guess maybe not a surprise, but check this out. This is the Cub Crafters pre-made, I guess it's called the Executive Glass. What this is a primary function display. So this does everything. This is like airliner level avionics. Moving maps. I mean, you guys can Google G3X and see what it does, but we have the G3X. It's all made, it's all done, it's all installed. All the switches are in here and labeled. Radio, this is the radio. Everything's in and installed. Really high quality stuff. Pretty excited about that, having all the connectors in, everything's dialed. I was doing avionics is probably not going to be my favorite thing, so I'm glad I went this route. These are the panels that go in the wing roots, so above your head on the left and right are these, all labeled, pre-built, ready to go. Looks like the stall warning horn right there. Excuse me, even this is a lot of talking. Anyway, map light here, already done. Got the AOA pitot here, really beautiful piece. Air comes in there for airspeed, and then we have the little holes on the bottom for AOA. AOA's angle of attack to tell you, it's much more sensitive to tell you when you're going to stall. The hardware is already, and bracketry is already made and bolted to it. This is the transponder. I've got a GTX 345, which is 80 SB in and out transponder that I can control through that screen, control everything through that screen. Super excited about that. Going to be lots of fun. But of course, as soon as you think you're making a lot of headway, dang, a box shows up, and to put all that in there, we got to do all of this. These are all the sensors, the engine monitoring equipment for that G3X. Every cylinder's got sensors and fuel sensors and manifold pressures and dual ignitions right here. This is electronic ignition, which brings this airplane stuff into the 21st century. all the wire. But you know what is cool about it? While it's daunting, we have all this stuff to put in. Look at this wiring harness, how they make them. All the connectors are already on. Everything's labeled. You can see the little labels in there. So it's a lot. It's complicated, but I don't know. It could get. I don't think it could get much easier. So yeah, that's that. I don't know what else to tell you for now. This will be a big job, and this will be a huge update video. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. So, yep. All right. I guess we'll get on to the next thing. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.